In one American city, the water system failed so completely that the National Guard had to deliver bottled water to 150,000 people. In another, the river caught fire 13 times. And in a third, 60% of the drinking water just vanishes underground every month, leaking through pipes older than the people they serve. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave this country a C grade in 2025. Sounds passable, right? That average is hiding something. In the cities on this list, the grades drop to D-. The pipes are a century old, the bridges are cracking, and the people still living in these places are the last ones anyone plans to help. If you are thinking about moving or already in one of these cities and do not know how bad it is, this video might save you a very expensive mistake. Subscribe if you like knowing things before they cost you money. Let's break it down, starting with number 12. Cleveland's Cuyahoga River caught fire 13 times between 1868 and 1969. That last one helped create the EPA. You'd think it was a wake-up call. It wasn't. The city's main treatment plant is nearly 100 years old. A riverbank called Irishtown Bend is actively sliding toward collapse, threatening a sewer line that could dump 20 million gallons of waste per day into the river. Cleveland has an estimated 235,000 lead service lines in the ground. Population fell from 914,808 to 362,670. Poverty is 30.7%. Violent crime is 4.5 times the national average. Cleveland solved the burning river. The stuff underground? Still waiting. And if aging pipes concern you, the next city built its entire identity around industry. Then the industry vanished overnight. Number 11. Youngstown, Ohio. September 19, 1977. Black Monday. 5,000 steelworkers showed up to Youngstown Sheet and Tube and were turned away. The plant was closed. Within a few years, every mill was gone. Over 40,000 manufacturing jobs were erased. Population dropped from 170,002 to 59,123. Youngstown became the first American city to formally plan for its own shrinkage. Over 1,000 structures were demolished. The city offers grants up to $50,000 for homeowners to relocate so entire blocks can be bulldozed. The median home value was $61,150. Poverty was 36.2%. Child poverty was 56.3%. A former mayor said abandoned houses here are like rainfall in the spring, but at least Youngstown planned for its decline. The next city's infrastructure was weaponized by corruption. Number 10. Birmingham, Alabama. Jefferson County filed for bankruptcy in 2011, carrying over $4 billion in debt. Before Detroit, this was the largest municipal bankruptcy in American history. $3.9 billion of that debt traced back to one thing: a sewer upgrade turned corruption scheme. The project was supposed to cost $1.2 billion. Corrupt contracting and toxic interest rate swaps from JP Morgan blew costs through the roof. Over 21 officials were indicted, more than half were convicted. Sewer rates went from the lowest in the country to the highest. Then, in May 2024, a catastrophic water main break left 15,000 customers without water for 4 days. The population dropped 42%. Violent crime was 4.7 times the national average. Would you buy a house where the sewer bill was set by convicted felons? Drop your answer in the comments. Number 9. St. Louis lost 67% of its population from 856,796 to 279,695. That's not decline, that's a disappearing act. A 2024 vacancy report counted nearly 24,000 vacant lots and buildings. Those properties cost the city $66 million a year. Firefighters responded to over 500 fires at vacant buildings in 2 years. The combined sewer system regularly overflows, prompting a $4.7 billion federal consent decree. There were over 330 water main breaks in 2023 alone, and 63,000 lead service lines are still in the ground. One alderman, whose own street is half vacant, called it psychological trauma. 2/3 of the city gone. The next city lost something even harder to replace. A bridge 30,000 people drove across every day. Number 8. Baltimore. On March 26, 2024, the container ship Dali brought the entire Francis Scott Key Bridge down. 6 workers were killed. The port was blocked for 11 weeks. The rebuild cost was up to $5.2 billion. Completion is expected in late 2030. But Baltimore's real crisis is underground. On a single day in January 2024, 3 sewer outfalls released over 14 million gallons of raw sewage combined. The city logged 4,648 sewage backups that year. Many water mains are over 100 years old. In February 2026, a winter storm caused over 160 water main breaks in 1 week. Population fell from 949,708 to 577,193. There are roughly 14,000 vacant houses and 20,000 empty lots. If a bridge collapse sounds dramatic, wait until you hear about 78,000 buildings abandoned at the same time. Detroit filed for bankruptcy, carrying $18.5 billion in debt. It was the largest municipal bankruptcy in American history. Police response averaged 58 minutes, 40% of streetlights were out, and 78,000 structures sat abandoned. Population went from 1,849,568 to 636,644, a loss of 1.2 million people. 40 square miles of vacant land. The average age of the water system is 95 years. In February 2025, a main built in 1930 ruptured in what officials called the worst water main break the city has ever seen. In May 2024, a main installed in 1902 created a sinkhole that swallowed a car. 80,000 lead service lines remain. Poverty is 31.9%. Violent crime is 5 times the national average. If Detroit's abandonment is staggering, the next city was built for one company. Then that company walked away. Number 6. Gary, Indiana was built in 1906 by U.S. Steel. Gary Works became the world's largest mill. Peak population was 178,320 with 32,000 steelworkers. Today, the population is 68,604. Between 10,000 and 13,000 buildings sit abandoned. Over 1/3 of all structures. The city collects only 42% of property taxes owed. The Indiana National Guard has been deployed for demolition operations. A resident who lived there since 1972 said they used to have everything you wanted. It was all there. Gary was built for steel. Steel left. Nobody rebuilt Gary for anything else. The next city had raw sewage flowing through its streets for 140 days straight. Number 5. East St. Louis went from 82,366 people to 18,278. That is a 78% collapse. In April 2024, the Department of Justice and the Environmental Protection Agency filed a Clean Water Act complaint after the city discharged untreated sewage into the Mississippi River on over 140 separate days. Sewage backs into streets, yards, and homes. Sewage fouls neighborhoods and overwhelms basic services. Researchers documented potholes the size of people and garbage piles the size of houses. The film Escape from New York was shot here because structure fires had destroyed so many blocks that the city doubled for post-apocalyptic Manhattan. Should a city that cannot keep sewage out of its own streets still be called a functioning municipality? Let me know in the comments. Number 4. Flint. On April 25, 2014, the city switched its water to the Flint River to save money. There was no corrosion control, and lead leached into the drinking water for roughly 100,000 people. Individual homes tested at 13,200 parts per billion. The EPA limit is 15 parts per billion. That is 880 times the legal threshold. 12 people died from Legionnaire's disease. The last lead pipe was not replaced until July 2025, 11 years later. Total settlements reached $659 million. One resident told reporters her water still comes out yellow unless she filters it. The population is down 60%. Poverty is 40.7%. Flint poisoned its residents to save money. The damage is still showing up a decade later. The next city's water does not poison you. It just never arrives. Number 3. Prichard, Alabama. Nearly 60% of the drinking water is lost through leaks in 80-year-old pipes. 73 million gallons per month vanish underground. Since 2021, over 50 million gallons of sewage have leaked. 4 water board employees were arrested for misspending millions. But here's the part that deserves more outrage. Prichard was the first American city to default on pension obligations. Checks to 150 retirees stopped. 14 people died after payments ended. A retired fire marshal was found dead with no electricity or running water. The city attorney said the calculus was simple. If you fund pensions, who pays the garbage man? The next city proves what happens when forgetting lasts a century. Number 2. Cairo, Illinois sits at the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. On paper, that is destiny. Population fell from 15,203 in 1920 to 1,523. A 90% decline. Vacancy 47.7%. No new private home has been built in over 50 years. In 2017, HUD declared the public housing unfit for human habitation. The buildings were demolished, displacing about 400 people. 1 in 4 Cairo residents lived there. Downtown is 100% abandoned. A resident said nobody cares about Cairo, but they do not understand it is a community of love. Charles Dickens called it a detestable morass in 1842. Nearly 200 years later, the description still fits. If your city lost 90% of its people and the government still did not step in, would you stay? Comments. Number 1. And this one hits different, because this isn't some forgotten town. This is a state capital. Jackson, Mississippi, August 2022. The water system failed entirely. 150,000 residents were without safe drinking water for 7 weeks. The National Guard deployed 600 troops. 12 million water bottles were distributed. The system is approximately 100 years old, with 1,000 miles of mains. There were 9 citywide boil notices between 2018 and 2022, lasting 129 days combined. Water breaks averaged triple the industry limit. The Department of Justice filed a federal complaint for Safe Drinking Water Act violations. The sewer system released over 3 billion gallons of raw sewage into the Pearl River. Mississippi graded its own drinking water and wastewater at a D-. Population fell from 202,895 to 143,709. In 2022, Jackson had the highest per capita homicide rate of any major American city. A former council member compared it to a frog in boiling water. You don't notice until it's too late. Jackson isn't a forgotten rural town. It's the capital, the seat of government, and the water doesn't work. You just heard 12 cities where pipes are a century old, sewers dump waste into rivers, and the government's answer ranges from too little to nothing. If you're planning a move, choosing wrong isn't just inconvenient, it's a health risk and a financial trap. Subscribe so you see this before your real estate agent doesn't mention it. And if you're already in one of these places, now you know. It's not just your block, it's the system. Tomorrow's video is worse.